This tutorial will show you how to transfer an image to a piece of wood. First off, you're going to need the image you want to transfer printed on a white sheet of paper. Next, you're going to need a piece of wood that is roughly the same size as the image you want to transfer. Here's something I picked up at Michael's. It's just a 4x4 square. I also found this really neat box. I thought it would make a great present for someone. You could put candy inside or even use it to store jewelry. My favorite thing I found at Michael's was this piece of wood. Not only did I think the oval shape was really cool, but I thought having the bark left around the edges gives it a really unique touch. You're also going to need glue. Here I have Mod Podge, but you can use Elmer's glue or any type of liquid glue that dries clear. And you're going to need a foam brush to help you spread the glue. You're going to need a pair of scissors to cut out your image. Next, you're going to need a washcloth, as well as a container of water. These won't be used until the end of the tutorial, so you can hold off on getting them right away. Lastly, you're going to need something with a flat edge. Here I have my frequent flyer card, but you can also use something like a ruler. So you're going to want your image by itself. If it's printed on a full sheet of paper like mine, you're going to need to cut it out. This doesn't need to be super neat. You just need to make sure that it will fit your piece of wood. An important thing to point out too is when you transfer your image onto wood, you're going to get a mirror reflection of what you printed. So if you want it to look just like the original, you're going to need to do some photo editing. Here I'm going to check and make sure that my image is going to completely cover the wood. You want to make sure there aren't any gaps or your final product may look a little off. Next, you're going to need to get out your glue. We're going to be using this as a gel medium to help transfer over the ink from the paper to the wood. What you're going to do is grab your piece of wood and spread a thin layer of glue over it. You don't want the layer to be very thick because the transferring process won't work as well. Also, it's very important that you get the whole surface, otherwise you'll have some missing spots in your image. Next, I'm going to grab my image. You can orient yours however you like, but it's important to remember to lay your image face down. If you mess up, the glue should still be wet, so you can lift it up and reorient it as you need. Here, I just want to check and see if the image is completely covering the wood. Now I want to try to get out all of the air bubbles. If there are any left inside where the glue is, you're not going to get a clean image. Here I'm just pressing out all the air bubbles with my flat edge. You can kind of see all of the glue coming out at the sides. You want to look out for slight bumps on the paper like you can see right here. That's an air bubble. You're going to want to make sure that you get them all out. When you're done, you're going to need to let the glue dry. I'd advise waiting about an hour to make sure that it's completely dry, but if you want to check after 30 minutes of doing so, you can go ahead and do that. When checking to make sure it's dry, I like to see if it's wet on the top and to see if I can lift any of the edges up. Once the glue is completely dry, you're going to want to get your water and your washcloth so we can start removing all of the paper. What I like to do is wet my washcloth, and you want to make sure that it's not too wet because you don't want to soak your image. And I just lightly pat it on. You should see the water is starting to saturate the paper. And you're going to want to continue to do this until the entire piece of paper is wet. Now is where the fun begins. So we're going to start to remove the paper now that it's wet. To do this, you're going to move your hand in a circular motion. You can see that some of the paper is starting to pick up just a little bit. Right there, see it's starting to come off. You're going to want to continue doing this, but make sure that you're extremely gentle. Later on, I'll show you what happens when you press too hard. I find that circular motions like what I'm doing now are the best way to get it off. And if the paper feels a little bit too dry, feel free to wet it some more, but remember not to soak your image. One thing I found was a little bit easier was to use my fingers instead. I like to start off using the washcloth just so I can get a little bit more traction, and then I go around with my fingers to take off the rest. Just remember to be patient. This takes a while even with me fast forwarding. As you can see, my image is coming out pretty well. I still have a lot of paper residue like right here on the bottom and a little bit around the edges. But I'm going to continue taking that off in a second. I just want you to see what the image is starting to come out like. So here I'm just going back in and cleaning it for a second time, just so I can get as much of that paper residue as I can off. I thought my last image was a little bit too dark, so I decided to do the tutorial again with a lot lighter image. As you can see here, I'm applying that layer of glue that we'll be using as the gel medium. And I already pre-cut my image to make this go a little bit faster. And now I'm doing that same process of removing the air bubbles, and then I'm going to leave it out to dry. Now that it's dry, I'm going to go through the same process to remove the paper. This is honestly the hardest part of the tutorial, because of how long it takes since you need to be so gentle. If you look right here, you can see I rubbed a little bit too harder on the nose, so I took some of the ink off. Since this is a wolf, it kind of goes with the fur, so it doesn't look too bad, but overall I'm pretty happy. Now that I let my image dry again, I'm going to put another layer of glue. This will act almost like a sealant to help to protect it from the environment. To do this, I'm going to spread out a layer of glue that's pretty thin. You want to make sure that you don't have any chunks in it sitting on top. You can repeat this step as many times as you want. I decided that I only wanted to do it 2 times, but if you feel like putting 10 layers, go for it. And here's our final product. This next part is completely optional. I really like how the black from the wolf popped out in the wood, so I decided I wanted to create a black border around the edges using acrylic paint. If you want to decorate your project, you can use paint, Sharpies, washi tape, or just leave it as is. It's completely up to you. I just thought a black border would look great around my wolf. And voila! Here's my final project. I hope you all enjoyed.